The light that never went out. In a valley where the evenings arrived softly, there stood a small village surrounded by hills, pine trees, and fields of pale silver grass. The village was called Miran, though most maps forgot to name it. It was a quiet place, with narrow stone paths, round windows, and chimneys that released thin smoke into the night air. People spoke gently, worked slowly, and ended each day before the sky turned dark. But Miran was known for one thing. At the top of the tallest hill, beyond the last cottage, there was a lantern. It hung from a crooked wooden post beside an ancient oak tree. No one remembered who had placed it there, and no one had ever seen anyone refill it. Yet every night, as soon as the first star appeared, the lantern began to glow. Softly at first, then steadily. And no matter how deep the darkness became, the light never went out. Children grew up hearing stories about it. Some said it was a gift from the moon, placed there so the village would never feel alone at night. But the elders never explained it. They only said, "Some lights are meant to be trusted, not questioned." A girl named Amara had looked at that lantern every night from her bedroom window. Her room was small and warm, with a wooden bed, shelves filled with storybooks, and blue curtains that moved gently in the night breeze. From her window, she could see the hill clearly. Every evening before sleep, she watched the lantern appear like a quiet golden star resting close to the earth. It had always comforted her. Until one winter evening, when the light changed. The day had been colder than usual. By sunset, clouds gathered over the hills, hiding the stars one by one. The villagers hurried indoors, doors closed, fires were lit, the streets emptied. Amara sat by her window, waiting. The hill was almost invisible beneath the growing dark. But then, just as always, the lantern began to glow. Only this time, it flickered. Amara leaned closer. The light trembled once, then steadied, then trembled again. It was still warm, but something about it seemed tired. She wrapped herself in her wool cloak, opened her bedroom door quietly, and stepped into the hallway. Her grandmother sat beside the hearth downstairs, mending a small blue scarf. Without looking up, she said, "You saw it too." Amara paused on the stairs. "The lantern," she whispered. Her grandmother nodded slowly. "It has been many years since it flickered." "What does it mean?" The old woman's hands stopped moving. For a moment, only the fire answered, crackling softly in the room. "It means," she said at last, "someone must visit it." "Who?" Her grandmother looked up then, her eyes gentle, reflecting the firelight. Someone who noticed. Outside, the wind moved lightly against the windows. Amara looked toward the hill again. The lantern flickered once more. She did not feel brave, but she did feel certain. "I'll go," she said. Her grandmother did not stop her. She placed the blue scarf around Amara's neck and kissed her forehead. "Walk slowly," she said, "and listen more than you speak." Amara stepped outside. The village was hushed beneath the winter night. Snow had begun to fall, light and silent, drifting through the air like pieces of torn moonlight. Her boots pressed softly into the path as she walked past the closed bakery and the little bridge over the frozen stream. No one else was outside. The lantern on the hill glowed ahead. Amara followed it. The path upward was narrow, winding between dark trees and sleeping bushes. The snow made everything quiet. Even her own footsteps sounded far away. As she climbed, the lantern seemed farther than it had ever looked from the village. She had walked this hill many times during the day. It was not a long climb, but tonight the path stretched gently onward, bending between trees she did not remember, and under branches that arched overhead like old fingers holding up the sky. Still, the light remained ahead. The lantern hung from its crooked post, glowing with a soft golden flame. Up close, it looked older than she expected. Its glass was clouded at the edges, its metal darkened with age, and tiny carvings covered its frame. The flame flickered again. Amara stepped closer. "What do you need?" she asked softly. At first, nothing happened. Then the flame leaned toward her, as if stirred by a breath. A warmth spread through the air. Not the sharp heat of fire, but the gentle warmth of a hand held near the heart. Amara closed her eyes, and suddenly she heard voices. Not loud voices, not frightening ones. Whispers. They came from far away and very near at the same time, layered together like memories. A child laughing in summer grass, a mother singing while folding blankets, an old man telling a story beside a window, a traveler saying thank you in the rain. Amara opened her eyes. The flame had grown brighter. The lantern was not filled with oil. It was filled with remembered kindness. Every small moment of warmth the village had given or received had somehow found its way here. Every gentle word, every shared loaf of bread, every hand offered in the dark. The lantern carried them all. But now, something was missing. Amara understood slowly. The lantern was not going out because it was old. It was flickering because the village had grown tired. In recent months, winter had been long. People had closed their doors earlier. Fewer stories had been told. Fewer songs had been sung. Everyone was waiting for spring, and while they waited, they had forgotten to share their light. Amara looked down at her gloved hands. "What can I give you?" she whispered. The lantern flickered gently. She remembered her grandmother's advice. Listen more than you speak. So Amara stood beneath the oak tree and listened. She listened to the snow falling, to the branches moving, and to the small flame struggling softly inside its glass. And beneath all of it, she heard a memory of her own. That morning, she had helped a little boy named Thomas gather the apples he had dropped in the square. He had been embarrassed, his cheeks red, his basket tipped sideways on the stones. Amara had said nothing clever or grand. She had only knelt beside him and helped place the apples back, one by one. When they were done, Thomas had smiled, a small, grateful smile. Amara had already forgotten it, but the lantern had not. She placed both hands around the glass, careful not to touch the flame. "I remember," she said. The light steadied. A soft glow spread outward, moving across the snow beneath her feet. It traveled down the hill like a slow golden stream, passing between trees, over stones, and toward the sleeping village below. One by one, windows began to brighten. Not because people woke, but because something warm returned to their dreams. In one house, an old baker dreamed of the first bread he had ever made with his father. In a cottage near the bridge, little Thomas dreamed of apples rolling across the square, and of someone kneeling beside him without laughing. The lantern shone brighter. Amara felt tears gather in her eyes, though she was not sad. The flame no longer flickered. It burned steady and calm. Behind her, the oak tree rustled, though there was almost no wind. A single leaf, golden despite the winter, drifted down and landed at her feet. She picked it up gently. On its surface, in lines finer than thread, was a message. A light remains when it is shared. Amara held the leaf close. The path down the hill now looked shorter, familiar again. The village waited below, quiet under the snow. Before she left, Amara looked once more at the lantern. "Will you stay bright now?" she asked. The flame gave one calm pulse. It felt like yes. She walked home slowly, the golden leaf tucked safely inside her cloak. The next morning, the village woke to a softer kind of winter. Nothing had changed in any obvious way. The snow still lay on the rooftops, and the fields were still sleeping beneath frost. But people opened their doors a little earlier. The baker gave an extra roll to the first child who passed by. Someone cleared snow from a neighbor's step. Two old friends met by the fountain and stood together for a while, watching the steam rise from their cups. That evening, when darkness came, everyone noticed the lantern. It glowed brighter than it had in many weeks. Not bright enough to disturb the night, only enough to comfort it. From then on, the people of Mirren remembered the hill differently. They still did not understand the lantern, and they did not try to, but they learned to care for the light in the only way it needed, with small kindnesses, with open doors, with stories shared before sleep. And every night, when the first star appeared, the lantern answered, softly at first, then steadily. A quiet golden glow above the village, a reminder that even the smallest warmth, once given, does not disappear. It waits somewhere, and when the world grows dark enough, it shines. And though storms came, and years passed, and the hills changed beneath the moonlight, the flame never vanished. Because somewhere, in every home, someone remembered to be gentle, and so the light never went out.